So my oldest sister, Mary, was very peculiar. I'm the youngest of four. And I was reminded of it. Recently I was moving a small chest that had come to me. It was from my parents' bedroom set. And on the back of it, someone in black crayon, in frustration, had scrawled, "Mary is nuts." Clearly upset as they were kids. So she was really peculiar. But my mother was able to keep her kind of on just this side of normal for high school and even part of college. But then my mother died quite suddenly the year that I turned 9, and my brother 12, my sister 16, and Mary, the oldest, at 21. So without my mother to guide her and kind of smooth the way and keep her in check, she really spiraled out. And by the end of her 20s, she was hospitalized and diagnosed. And from that point on, she lived in sheltered group houses. So this January, I received a call from my sister Regina saying that Mary had died. She was in her late 70s. And the conversation went between my brother, my sister, and myself about what to do. I was willing to spring for a Catholic, a funeral mass. I thought maybe the place where my father had a funeral. But my brother, for some reason, had really taken this strong position, and he said very emphatically, "I'm not giving a penny to that goddamn church." So I thought, well, there we have it. So we moved to the idea that they had my sister cremated, my sister and brother. And Bill kept the ashes. He said, "I've got Mary, she's no trouble." And then it was decided that we would bury her where my mother is buried. Because my sister Regina, becoming kind of modeled and said she has to be buried with mother. She's the one who really loved her. I said, fine, right? The name of the cemetery was Gate of Heaven. And I was left, since they handled the cremation, I was left to handle the cemetery. Now, I'd been to this cemetery once, because the year that I was the same age as my mother had been when she died, I thought, I really want to see this grave. So on my way to New York, I stopped at the cemetery, and huge cemetery. They showed me how to get up, up to this little knoll, and just big family plot. A couple of graves up top, it's a cross, the family name. My mother's buried down here, and lots of room. So it wasn't a very cathartic experience. So the leaves were twirling, etc. So the woman at the desk had said, "Please talk me on the way out." So I stopped by, and she said, "Does your family have plans for this plot? It's very valuable real estate." Real estate. That's a new concept. But I said I would spread the word. But so I did know about the cemetery. So I called them, and to my relief, a very nice young man said, yes, they did accept ashes now. As of 1985, they could be buried in a Catholic grave. Phew, that's good. Then he said, "Do you have the deed?" The deed? No. He said, "Well, I'll look up for you. It's Angela McDonnel." I said, "Wow, my cousin Angie. She's on the West Coast. Do you have a phone number?" He said, "Oh, we could never give that out." I said, "Okay." So we said, "That's okay, we can do an affidavit." Now, it's more money if you're buried on Saturday rather than during the week. And there's an additional charge, of course, for the affidavit. So I'm listening to my brother's thought again about I'm not giving another cent to that church. So I said, fine. I spread the word again. He said, "Call us back," about a month to go. So I called back in April, and the young man is not on the phone. It's a very officious woman who says, "Was there a funeral mass?" I said, "No." She says, "Well, then you need to get a letter from the priest." Now, I'm thinking hard about this, and I'm thinking that among the three of us, I am sure that we do not know a priest. We may know someone who knows a priest. So I feel this is not insurmountable. It's Boston, there are Jesuits, Paulists, there's some liberal Catholics around. We can find a letter. So we agree around the affidavit, the price, all of this. May 3rd is chosen. And we end the call, and then within about a half an hour, she calls me back, and she says, "I have discovered another problem in preparing the paperwork. The maintenance fee for this plot has not been paid in some time, and it totals over $10,000. So I can't contain myself. I have to be honest with you. There is very little chance that would be paid. Now, my brother all along has had this other idea. Maybe you've guessed it. He has said, we drive to the cemetery. We dig the hole next to Mother's grave. We put the ashes in. It's done. So when I report back about the $10,000, his idea becomes the #1 idea. So it was just embarrassing because we're really very law-abiding, especially my sister and myself. My brother's a little more on the fringe. But he, for some reason, knows that there is a graveyard, rather a parking place. So we all meet up at this parking lot and we file in. I'm the one who's prepared. I brought the spade, right? And I brought 2 trowels and half a thing of potting soil so we can hide that plastic box that the ashes are in case anyone comes up. And so I've also brought 3 things from Trader Joe's, an azalea, 2 rhododendrons. We know they're not going to live long, but there they are, right? So we drive in, and we're feeling very furtive, and suddenly a stranger appears. He approaches us, and we all think it's the cemetery police. But it's not. It's our 4th cousin that we had never met. So he's trading information with my sister. I'm trying to get rid of him. And he's trading this information about, your grandfather was my father's favorite uncle. Oh, who cares? Can we get this over with, please? So we get rid of him, and it's very difficult to dig in this dirt. Near where my mother was impossible because of tree roots, but near where the big family cross is, you know, that's the place. So we get it all dug in, we smooth it down, I read a couple of poems. They're not listening anyway, and that is really the end of the burial of the caper in the Catholic graveyard.